What started as whispers in the hallway turned into a full-blown scandal when Sierra allegedly told producers that the baby rumors surrounding Kirk weren't just gossip, they were real. And if that wasn't enough, she did it while cameras were rolling just loud enough for Rasheeda to hear from inside her dressing room. You could feel the energy shift on set. Cast members froze, crew members stopped moving, and moments later, Rasheeda emerged visibly shaken, mascara already smudged and holding her phone like she had just seen her whole world flip upside down. According to multiple sources close to production, Rasheeda was never supposed to find out that way. This wasn't part of the storyline. It wasn't scripted. Sierra was reportedly venting to a few people about all the things she's tired of covering up, and Kirk's name came up. Not only did she confirm the baby rumors she implied, there was a woman who had receipts. And while Kirk was out back laughing with Jock, he had no idea his entire life was unraveling room by room. By the time he walked back in, it was too late. Rasheeda was waiting, phone in hand, voice shaking, and Sierra was standing 10 feet away with her arms crossed, refusing to say another word. Rasheeda was sitting in her dressing room just minutes before her scene when she heard her name, in a sentence that made her blood run cold. The walls were thin and the voices outside weren't even trying to whisper anymore. It was Sierra speaking so clearly, so confidently that it didn't feel like a rumor. It felt like a declaration. She said it like it was already known. It's true. He's been messing around and the girl is definitely pregnant. I've seen the texts. Those were the exact words. Nobody even tried to stop her. And just like that, the atmosphere backstage turned heavy, suffocating. The only sound in the dressing room was Rasheeda's deep breathing. It's like she was trying to hold her whole world from collapsing in on itself outside. You could feel it. People trying to act normal, but their eyes were darting toward that door. Everyone knew she heard it. Nobody was sure what she would do. Some were expecting silence. Others expected tears. But what nobody expected was for Rasheeda to open the door, walk past everyone, and head straight toward the main set where Kirk was joking with Jock and Scrappy like nothing had happened. Her face was unreadable, but her energy was volcanic. Kirk saw her coming and stood up like he already knew he was in trouble, but didn't know for what. He said, "What's wrong?" But Rasheeda didn't respond. She held up her phone and said, "You tell me what's wrong." Everyone went quiet. Cameras started rolling instantly. This wasn't planned. This wasn't a sit-down interview. This was real. Sierra, who had followed the group quietly from behind, stood to the side with her arms crossed. She didn't say a word. Not yet. She didn't need to. Her earlier words were echoing in everyone's ears. Kirk looked at the phone Rasheeda was holding, but she pulled it back before he could grab it. She wasn't ready to let him spin a story. Not this time. Why? Are people saying you got a baby on the way? Why is Sierra out here telling people there's proof? What am I supposed to do with that? Her voice cracked just a little, enough to make it clear that this wasn't just about embarrassment. This was about betrayal. Again. Kirk looked at Sierra, who didn't even blink. She just stared at him, like she was daring him to lie. Kirk turned back to Rasheeda and said, "You know how people talk. You know how this show works. Come on, you believe that?" But Rasheeda didn't flinch. She looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Do you think I'd be this upset if it was just talk?" Her voice wasn't loud, but it hit like a slap. Someone in the crew dropped something in the background. The silence was so thick you could hear every breath. And then out of nowhere, Sierra spoke up. "You want to keep pretending, Kirk? Fine, but don't look at me like I'm the problem when you've been out here embarrassing her for years. I kept quiet for too long. I'm not doing it anymore." The room shifted again. Everyone looked at her, stunned. Rasheeda's eyes didn't leave Kirk. She didn't even react to Sierra's words. She was focused. "You told me everything was fine. You told me you weren't doing anything stupid again." Kirk shook his head and said, "I didn't. Rasheeda, I swear on everything. I didn't." But the damage was already done. Sierra pulled her phone out of her purse and opened a message thread. She didn't show the full conversation, just a few lines. Enough to suggest something deeper. Enough to cause chaos. She said, "I'm not showing everything because this ain't about me, but if you want me to tell the truth, I will, because I'm tired of being quiet while y'all smile in each other's faces like everything's perfect." She handed her phone to Scrappy. who looked at the screen and said nothing. He passed it to Jock, who muttered, "Damn." Kirk didn't even ask to see it. He just turned his back, pacing, jaw clenched. Rasheeda sat down, not saying a word. Her hands were shaking. This wasn't just a fight. It wasn't even just about cheating anymore. This was humiliation. Not from enemies, not from outsiders, but from the people closest to her, from her husband, from someone she considered a sister. And now the entire cast was standing around watching her try to hold it together while her marriage fell apart in front of the cameras. Someone tried to bring her water, but she waved it off. She didn't want to be comforted. It's one of answers. Bambi stepped forward then, putting a hand gently on Rasheeda's shoulder. "I didn't know any of this," she whispered. "I swear I didn't." Rasheeda nodded slightly but didn't speak. Bambi turned to Sierra and said, "You dropped this bomb like it was nothing. You don't think she deserved a heads up? You don't think you owed her that?" Sierra looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "I tried to keep my mouth shut. I really did. But Kirk out here acting like he's above it all. It's like nobody can touch him. And meanwhile, she walking around defending him, loving him, not knowing half the story." That's when Kirk exploded. "You don't know what the hell you're talking about, Sierra. You got all these damn assumptions and you run in your mouth like it's facts. You don't know nothing." But it was too late. His voice was shaking. His face was red. And for the first time in a long time, Kirk looked like he had no control over the narrative. This wasn't something he could fix with a dinner date or a staged apology. This was raw. This was real. And the more he spoke, the worse it got. Rasheeda finally stood up. Her voice was low but steady. "You know what's sad? I wasn't even surprised when I heard it. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just sat there thinking, of course he did. And that's when I knew this ain't love. Not anymore." Kirk tried to speak, but she cut him off. "Don't. Just don't. I'm done making excuses for you. Done protecting you." The room was dead silent. Even the crew wasn't moving. Everyone stood frozen, watching a marriage unravel like a thread being pulled loose one word at a time. And through it all, Sierra stood there silent now, her expression unreadable. Was she proud? Was she sorry? Nobody knew. All they knew was that everything had changed in a matter of minutes, and nothing was going to be the same again. After Rasheeda's voice dropped and she said those final words, "I'm done protecting you," Kirk didn't move. He didn't chase after her. He didn't deny anything again. He just stood there, jaw tight, arms stiff at his sides like a man who had finally been caught, with nowhere left to hide. The cast was frozen in place. Cameras kept rolling, but even the producers looked stunned. Nobody had expected this. Not today, not like this, and definitely not on set where everything was supposed to be safe, rehearsed, and staged. But this wasn't staged, was unraveling in real time. Sierra shifted, her weight, the tension suddenly pressing back on her. For a moment, she looked like she might walk out, maybe even regret saying too much. But then she locked eyes with Kirk, and something in her gaze said she wasn't done yet. "You think I enjoyed doing that?" she asked, her voice sharp, but trembling underneath. "You think I wanted to be the one to say it? I didn't. But every time I see her standing by you, smiling, defending you, it makes me sick. She deserved better than this. She deserves the truth." Rasheeda was already out the room by then. Bambi followed behind her while Scrappy hung back with Jock. Kirk finally sat down, rubbing his hands over his face, not saying a word. The weight of the room had shifted. No one was protecting him now. Even Jookie the clown, always trying to smooth things over, just shook his head. "Bro, you should have seen this coming. We've been trying to tell you." Kirk looked up, eyes heavy. "I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think she'd actually say it out loud." In the hallway, Rasheeda leaned against the wall, hands pressed over her stomach like she was holding herself together from the inside. Bambi reached for her again, gently, and asked if she wanted to go somewhere private. Rasheeda shook her head. "I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to hide. Not this time. If he can embarrass me out here, then I can cry out here too." The words hit Bambi hard. She had been in similar shoes not long ago, and it showed in her face. She didn't try to console her with fake positivity. She just stood beside her, quiet, present, quiet, present. As the scene unsettled, producers scrambled behind the scenes. Some whispered about stopping the shoot. Others were texting someone, possibly network executives. It was chaos. It's the kind of chaos that sells, but also the kind that leaves lasting scars. One producer asked Sierra if she'd be willing to sit with Rasheeda one-on-one. Sierra hesitated. "I'll do it, but only if she wants to, not forcing nothing. I already said too much." Meanwhile, Kirk got up and walked off set. No cameras followed him at first. He made his way to the parking lot and lit a cigarette, pacing back and forth like a man trying to talk himself out of a breakdown. Minutes later, the same producer who had talked to Sierra walked up to him. "She's not leaving the show," the producer said. "Not right now. But she doesn't want to talk to you either. Not today." Kirk didn't argue. "I don't blame her," he said under his breath. "Really don't." Back inside, the dressing room door finally closed behind Rasheeda and Bambi. Inside, there were tissues, bottled water, and a couch that suddenly felt too small for everything Rasheeda was carrying. She looked at herself in the mirror, mascara streak, lips pressed tight, eyes red. "I feel stupid," she whispered. "I feel like I let everybody laugh at me while I kept defending him." Bambi crouched beside her, resting a hand on her knee. "You're not stupid. You were loyal, and he didn't deserve that. But don't blame yourself for his mess." Rasheeda nodded slowly, but the tears came anyway. Soft at first, then deep. Not loud, but heavy. The kind that choke you before you even realize you're crying. Bambi didn't say anything more. She just let her cry. Outside the door, someone knocked. It was the same producer. "Sierra's willing to talk," she said, "only if you're ready." Rasheeda wiped her face, stood up, and said, "Tell her to come in." The room was silent when Sierra walked in. For the first time, she didn't come in with fire. Her steps were cautious, her voice low. "I know this ain't how you were supposed to find out," she began, "and I hate that it came out this way, but I couldn't keep watching you carry that man like he's your crown when he'd been dragging your name behind your back." Rasheeda didn't look at her at first. She stayed staring at the mirror. When she finally turned, her voice was quiet but sharp. "So, you waited until cameras were rolling to tell it." Sierra sighed. "Didn't mean for it to happen like that. I was venting. Someone asked me something and I didn't stop myself. I was tired." Rasheeda looked her straight in the eye. "You know what tired is? Tired is defending a man who cheats on you and lies to your face while you pretend everything's fine for the world. Tired is building a brand with someone who keeps tearing it down every time you turn your back. So don't talk to me about tired." Sierra blinked, holding back her own tears. "You're right. You're absolutely right." There was a long pause between them. No shouting, no throwing drinks, just the rawness of two women finally standing in truth, no matter how painful. Rasheeda finally asked the question everyone had been scared to say out loud. "Is it true, the baby? Is there really a woman out there pregnant by him?" Sierra didn't flinch. "I didn't say she's pregnant. Said there are messages. There's communication and it ain't innocent. There's a baby. I don't know for sure, but I know. He's been moving dirty again." Those words were enough to break what little hope Rasheeda had been clinging to. She nodded, not speaking, just breathing through it. "Thank you," she finally said, "for being honest, even if it was late." Sierra looked surprised. "You're not mad?" Rasheeda gave a sad smile. "Oh, I'm mad. Just not at you. I'm mad at myself for still believing he could change down the hallway." Other cast members were still whispering. The news had spread fast. Scrappy was already on the phone. Kendra was pacing. Spice had her mouth covered like she was trying not to react. It wasn't just about Kirk anymore. It was about loyalty, about who knew what and when. And the question everyone was asking now was who else was hiding something. Outside, Kirk was still alone. No cameras. It's just him, his cigarette, and his regrets. And for the first time, it looked like even he didn't believe his own lies anymore. Kirk finally flicked the cigarette to the side, watching the ember fizzle on the asphalt like the last bit of control he had left. He stood there for another few minutes scrolling through his phone like he was looking for something to hold on to. A message, a photo, anything that reminded him of when things were still calm between him and Rasheeda. But all he saw were text threads that hadn't been opened in weeks. Missed calls, unanswered check-ins. The silence between them had started before this moment. It just took Sierra's words to make it loud. Incident atmosphere had shifted. People were no longer whispering. They were openly talking. Not just about Kirk and Rasheeda, but about the pattern. How every season someone's truth came out, but this time it felt heavier. Not because it was Kirk again, but because Rasheeda looked like she had finally had enough. Everyone could see it in her body language. It's the way she didn't defend him. The way she didn't cry in front of cameras. The way she just shut down in one corner of the lounge. Spice leaned in toward Erica Mena and asked the question out loud. You think they'd done for real this time? Erica tilted her head. Depends. If there really is a baby. There is, she's out for good. Spice nodded. But even if there isn't, the trust's gone. And you can't build nothing without that. Their exchange wasn't meant to be heard by the crew, but it didn't matter at this point. Nothing was staying private. Meanwhile, Kirk Ray entered the building. Cameras followed this time, picking up every hesitant step he took. He didn't go to the dressing room. Instead, he went to the main set where a few producers were sitting, clearly unsure of whether filming would continue. Kirk cleared his throat and said flatly, "Can I talk to her?" One of the producers shook his head. "Not today. She needs space." Kirk didn't argue. He just nodded, looking completely worn down. "I messed up," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I always mess up." Back in the dressing room, Rasheeda was now alone. Bambi had stepped out to give her a moment, and Sierra had left after their talk, unsure whether anything was really resolved. Rasheeda sat in front of the mirror staring at her reflection, her phone now resting on the table. Every few seconds, it buzzed with a message, but she didn't look. Instead, she whispered to herself, "How many times do I have to lose myself in his mess?" Memories rushed through her mind. The public cheating scandal from years ago, the therapy, the vows renewed, the brand they built together pressed, the boutiques, the couples panels. Every time Kirk embarrassed her publicly, she had forgiven him privately. But this time was different. This time there were receipts. This time someone else spilled it. And worst of all, this time she didn't feel numb. She felt angry, not hurt, not sad, just mad. Mad that she let it go on this long. Mad that no matter how much she grew, Kirk stayed stuck. She picked up her phone and finally opened one of the messages. It was from a mutual friend, someone who didn't usually get involved. It read, "I didn't want to be the one to say it, but it's true. He's been out of town more than usual, and he's been spotted with that girl more than once. I'm sorry." She didn't reply, locked her screen again. In another part of the building, Jock and Scrappy were deep in conversation. Scrappy looked frustrated. "Mean this whole thing feel like a setup? Sierra out here exposing people like she working with the feds or something." Jock chuckled but kept it low. "Nah, bro. She just tired. She's been holding secrets for everybody for years, and now that she ain't got nothing to lose, she's letting it all fly." Scrappy nodded. "Well, if she coming for Kirk, ain't no telling who she going to go after next." Right then, Kendra walked in overhearing the last line. "Y'all better pray she ain't got nothing on y'all," she said dryly, sipping from a bottle of water. Jock raised an eyebrow. "You think she got something on me?" Kendra didn't answer. She just smiled and walked away, leaving Jock looking more nervous than amused. As tension swirled through every room, the producers gathered to decide what to do. Some wanted to stop filming entirely and give Rasheeda a break. Others argued that the footage was too powerful to miss. After some debate, they agreed to let the cast regroup privately and resume tomorrow. But the damage had already been done. Word had spread beyond the set. Blogs were already posting anonymous tips. One site even claimed they had the screenshots. Sierra mentioned, "No one knew if that was true, but the internet didn't care about facts. They cared about clicks." Outside the studio, paparazzi had begun to gather. Someone had leaked that a confrontation had gone down between Rasheeda and Kirk, and rumors of a pregnancy had already hit Twitter. Fans flooded the comments on Rasheeda's last post, writing things like, "Stay strong, Queen. We believe you and you deserve better." Even those who had criticized her in the past were now standing behind her. The vibe had shifted. For once, the narrative wasn't about her staying. It was about whether she'd finally walk away. By the time Kirk left the building, the cameras caught every step. Flashes from phones lit up his face, and the same question kept getting shouted from different voices. "Do you have a baby on the way? Who's the other woman? What did Rasheeda say?" Kirk didn't respond. He kept his head down and walked to his car, but even his silence felt like an answer.